The intro, Eddie. I think some of you I might have met or worked with in the past. As Eddie said, I'm going to pull up my presentation right now. Okay. All right. I don't know if that's working. Eddie, can I get like a thumbs up if it's...
Yeah, it's working. We can see it.
Cool. All right. So, yes, as Eddie said, my name is Adam Pinos. Today, Eddie brought me in recovery, performance, how it's, related when it comes to swimming. Before I can go in, if you have any like more detailed questions that either I can't answer or you weren't comfortable with asking me about, my email is right here. It's just simply my first name and then my last name @gmail.com. So feel free to email me. We'd love to answer any questions you might have. Maybe it's something that doesn't fit with this presentation. Maybe, anything you have, shoot me an email. More than happy to oblige. So, before we get into it, Eddie kind of introduced me, but I figure I should probably explain who I am and how I came here. So my name's Adam. I grew up swimming and playing competitively in both the US and Canada. If I had enough time, I'd go through the whole story of where I've lived, but in short, I grew up in the US and played water polo and swam at the same time, and then went to the University of Toronto and played water polo competitively there while also studying kinesiology. During my time there and during my undergrad, I kind of came to the decision that I really wanted to work in high performance sport or elite sport. There's different names for it around the world, but I wanted to work with, the best of the best. So what research I did brought me to the fact that I needed to know as much as I possibly could about physiology, about performance, about the human body as I possibly can so that I can work with these athletes effectively, right? So I can give them the best possible advice, the best possible guidance when it came to exercise prescription and whatnot. So what I did was I decided to go and complete a master's. And what my master's focused on was exercise physiology with adolescent swimmers, which was your national group in 2019, all of 2019. So April and from, I believe, October to December, kind of in that time frame. And during that time and during my undergrad, I worked at the Canadian Sport Institute Ontario, which, if any of you have been to the Toronto Pan Am Center, it's an organization that's associated as a part of it. And what I do is I work as a contract sport physiologist. So I help run testing. I provide exercise prescription to some teams when it's called upon, and just help with general lab work. So whether it be running VO2 max testing or lactate testing and stuff like that. I just finished my master's last, I guess it's April now. And I decided that I wanted to do a PhD. And Eddie, there's 2 people in the waiting room. I don't know if you want to let them in. And I decided that I wanted to pursue a PhD. And now I'm pursuing a PhD in health informatics, which means I'm basically looking at numbers and how they affect things going on in healthcare. And I'm hoping that I can take what I learned from this PhD and apply it to sport. So being able to answer, again, like I said, for my undergrad, trying to answer more questions so I can help more and more athletes, right? So what is it I'm going to be talking about today? Well, like I said earlier, it's all about performance and recovery, and you can't have one without the other, right? So first thing I'm really going to do is I'm going to talk about like the demands of competitive swimming. So a lot of what I learned during my master's and how it can be applied in this presentation to recovery. Then I'll be talking about just like the physiology of sleep. So the basics of, what you'd learn in grade 9, 10, 11 bio. and how it can be affected through what we do at practice or in competition or in life. And with each of those, I'll be providing, what are some strategies we can do to improve what we're already doing for recovery, or, touch on this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it. So this is why it's important. So, and yeah, again, lastly, questions. If you can save them for the end, that's great. And I can't wait to field them at the end. So first, competitive swimming life. Right. So as many of you know, swimming is a very demanding sport. And depending on the event that you are racing, it can be crucial that you're able to produce a large amount of energy. And energy comes in your body in the form of something called ATP. And this can come, and you could require this ATP to propel you in the water for events as short as 20 seconds. So like a 50-meter freestyle sprint for, the world record holders out there. Or, you could require energy for as long as, 5 minutes plus. And each of those require different energy systems, right? So when we talk about energy systems, there's three major energy systems that your body relies on for swimming and for just sport in general. The first is the alactic energy system, which draws from, storage areas in your muscles. So it's, it's what provides you with your burst of power. So as you can see, Kylie Mass here just came up to the block. She put her feet up and boom, she's off. So instantaneously, she needs energy to burn. So this power, fuels you from your start, and then it fuels the buildup of speed for your underwaters, right? So when you're kicking really fast, that first roughly 0 to 6 seconds. Something else I wanted to note is during, when you're swimming, all three energy systems are always being utilized. It's just at different time points or at different intensities, you'll utilize some more than others. So it's not always fair to say that, oh yeah, if you have a great lactic system, you're going to be a great sprinter. It's like, no, you kind of need to train all of them, but you'll focus more on others, right? So speaking of the lactic system, it's our second system. And it's really called the glycolytic anaerobic system. And it produces energy by burning sugar that's stored in your liver, it's stored in your your blood, and again in your muscle. And this system is strong for, again, roughly from the 10-second mark to about 1 to 2 minutes in, but then starts to die down because your body doesn't have infinite storage space for all this sugar. So that's when the aerobic system kicks in, right? And that's your last energy system. And it got its name basically from, aero, meaning air in Latin. It requires air to produce energy. And this system produces a lot more energy than the other two systems over time, but it produces at a much slower rate, right? So this energy system is great for those longer distance, 500-meter plus events, and just in other events where, it helps you maintain the speed, it helps you maintain that distance per stroke through the longer distances. Right. So this is all important because depending on the workout and how much energy you burn, it can depend on, the energy system you're utilizing and how long you're taxing it. So Shaw and colleagues in 2014 were able to estimate, what zone, roughly based off of beats below max. Sometimes we, try and get your an easy way of calculating your heart rate max is 220 minus your age. So if you are 16, 204, right? So your aerobic system, roughly 60 below your max, you'd be around less than 144. Again, this changes with age, right? In addition to heart rate and beats below max, there are three other major factors that play a role into, the calculation of how much energy you're burning during a workout. And these are gender, your weight, and your age. Perfect example of this is if you're tall and heavier like me, I'm going to be burning more calories than someone who's shorter and, smaller than me, because, it requires more energy to get me moving through the water. Another study in 2011 by Sato and colleagues found that, on average, athletes were burning roughly 500 calories after a 3,500 meter workout, and anywhere from 900 to 1,000 calories after a 6,000 to 7,000 meter workout. And that's all excluding dry land. That's just everything that's happening in the pool. All right, the numbers here are, indicating like how much energy they're burning throughout the day. So that includes, how much energy you're burning at a basic rate. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this. In the coming weeks, a friend and colleague of mine, Eric Williamson, he will provide nutritional guidance and recovery strategies with both like hydration tips, protein and carbohydrate consumption, and for like your practices, your competitions, your everyday life. But I thought it'd be valuable to show you all, how much work you do day after day in the pool and the metabolic stress it places on your bodies, right, over the course of a season. So speaking of a swim season, this is an example of a typical swim season from a coach's perspective. Thank you, Eddie, for providing this to me. And a lot of thought, and another reason I wanted to show this, besides, my primary reason, is a lot of thought and planning goes into, how every single one of your coaches plans your practices. I've worked with Eddie. I've worked with a lot of the other coaches at NIAC, and I can say that they put in a lot of work and a lot of effort into structuring and ensuring that they're doing everything they need to do to get you to train and stress your bodies to the max, while also allowing you the proper times you need to recover. And with that said, the coaches program your workouts to allow for what's called progressive overload to occur. And what this is, as performances increases, you need to, throughout the season, ensure that you're peaking for, specific performances like the NIAC Cup or OJIs or, trials, Easterns, OSC, OYJs, right? And as you go throughout the season, your body gets stressed, and then you need to be able to, provide recovery so that, if you overstress it, you run the risk of overtraining and exhaustion, right? Which often leads to regression. So if you see this as stress and then recovery, if you don't provide this proper recovery, this isn't going to go up, but it's going to take longer to go up. And then it's going to affect, each one of these weeks where we're trying to get a specific adaptation and we're trying to, progressively get you faster and faster. Without that proper recovery and without proper, rest and implementation of the strategies we take to build your programs, that adaptation won't be as successful. So, the key here is your coaches are always trying to hit that sweet spot of, between stress and recovery. Now, let's quickly talk about that word. Let's talk about stress and its effect on your body. And this is where I said we're going to talk a little bit about that biology that you might have seen before. So whether it be in life, psychological, or in the pool, with the mechanical stress that we have, on our muscle and our joints, if these stresses go unmanaged, it can inflict a significant blow to our endocrine system, right? And this system significantly influences how we grow, how we develop, and our metabolic activity. So what I was talking about before with how we break down carbohydrates and utilize stuff for energy, if we don't have our endocrine system in check, all of these things can be affected. So how the body processes this stress is actually pretty simple, right? So when the stress comes in, it goes to our brain. And our brain, in the brain, the hypothalamus receives the stimuli that you're stressed and sends a signal to your pituitary gland. And they excrete a neurotransmitter that then is sent to your adrenal glands, telling them, hey, we need something right now, right? So meet your adrenals. These walnut-sized glands sit on top of your kidneys and are the powerhouse of your endocrine system. And they play many roles in your body, but for today, we're just going to be discussing these two major ones: stress response and sleep patterns. And the two major hormones that I want you to remember that we'll talk about later are adrenaline and cortisol. These hormones determine how your body will react at any time. Adrenaline is that, if you're standing at the top of a ski hill and you're not sure if you're ready to go, but then you have all your friends going and they're trying to hype you up, or right before a race, everyone's, getting you excited. That's that adrenaline feeling, right? And cortisol is its polar opposite, right? It's what relaxes you and is what responds or helps your body respond to that stress that you feel. So like I said, try and remember these because later I'll be bringing them back up again. So on the topic of stress, the largest amount of stress in your body comes during practice. And yes, I'm talking about practice. There are other sources of stress in your lives as swimmers, such as school, dry land, and, everyday life stresses that can, come from anything, whether it be the commute life or family, etc. But all of these during your swim season revolve around your practice schedule. All these things can be affected by, did you have a good practice? Did you have a bad practice? Are you late to practice? A lot of things are influenced by practice. This schedule can change. The schedule that I have here, I listed because as you get older, some of you might be 13, others might be 17, 18 in the older groups at NIAC. As you're younger, you have, you might only be doing 4 practices a week, where, only Monday morning is an AM practice, and then Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, you have PM practices, right? But then as you get older, things like dry land workouts, 2-a-days. So whether it be, a Wednesday where you have a morning practice and then a afternoon practice, these things are just added stresses in your life. You have to manage school. You have to manage, you are all student athletes. I know that's a term that's usually only associated when you go off to university, but you right now, as middle school, high schoolers, you are all student athletes. You are all, you should all be proud of that too, because I had friends in high school who didn't play sports, and, it's a lot easier, but hey, we do what we love and it's great. And it's important that, you as these student athletes have the proper strategies in place to allow your body to rest and recover between each of these sessions, So now I'm going to, as I discussed earlier, it's essential that you get the recovery you deserve. And after a hard practice in the pool or on dry land, think about all of the pressure you placed on your joints. Think about, how sore your muscles are, and and implementing these proper recovery strategies will allow you to reduce injury rates, right? Extend your careers as athletes, and ensure that, when the time comes, you're able to perform at your best at 100%. When the coach says, all right, guys, all out, go, or you're at a competition, you're at a swim meet and it's finals, you need to be able to walk up to the block and say, I'm ready, let's do this, right? So what are some strategies? Well, like I said, outside of implementing things such as hydration and nutrition strategies, which I am sure Eric Williamson will go into immense detail to provide strategies for all of you in the coming weeks, there are 2 major strategies that you can start implementing today. And I'm sure some of you are already implementing one of these really well. And the first is passive rest. In other words, sleep. So I'm hoping you're not actually doing this in bed, sleeping and throwing the pillows like that. But it's a very easy and, it's the most effective way for recovery. However, it's not the greatest for short-term recovery, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. And the second is active recovery. So what is active recovery? Well, some of you might wonder, at the end of a long swim practice, what is the real reason we're doing this 200, 400, 600, 800 meter warm down? Well, light swim at the end of practice and stretching on dry land help your body actively recover. And what this does is it alleviates stress. It alleviates psychological, neurological, mechanical, metabolic, all those stresses that I was talking about earlier. It helps alleviate it, right? And it actually helps your muscle strengthen it, like in response to this as well, because you're starting the recovery process. But the benefits actually go beyond this. So like, how does this active recovery help my muscles, you might ask? Well, let's go back to those energy systems I mentioned earlier and touch upon a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. So one of the major energy systems you use in swimming is that glycolytic lactate system. So if you remember, we had the anaerobic, alactic, you had the glycolytic, lactic, and then you had the aerobic system, right? And I'm sure a lot of you have heard of lactic acid and how bad it is for you. Well, this pesky byproduct of the energy that's being made from that sugar, glucose, it comes from glucose. It's converted into pyruvate. Pyruvate's the sugar that's broken down, and when it's broken down for energy, we get hydrogen ions, lactic acid, and this thing called lactate. Lactate can then eventually, using the aerobic system, be converted back into energy. But in those short bursts, we're producing lots of this guy, this hydrogen ion guy, and the lactic acid. I am here today to tell you something that you might hear a lot, but is actually a myth. Lactic acid is not the reason why you have that burning sensation or that sandbag sensation in your legs. It's actually this guy, the green guy. It's the hydrogen ions. And what hydrogen ions do, if they build up enough, is they cause what's called acidosis. And that name in and of itself just sounds bad, right? And that's the burning sensation that you have in your legs, right? So whether it be, through walking or a low intensity aerobic work after swimming, or through stretching and yoga, or, another great one is rolling for like a myofascial release after like a really intense workout. All 3 of these strategies give, you the opportunity to relieve the tension built up from the workout and increase the blood flow that you have, right? Which is what, will allow that lactic acid. But also its pesky hydrogen ions to be cycled out to your liver and be, you know, flushed through to your bloodstream and flushed out of the muscle itself. So what you're doing is you're increasing blood flow so that you're flushing all of that bad stuff out of your legs, out of your arms, out of your chest, to help you recover more, right? So there are a lot of things that can happen after practice or to swim meet that can get in the way of actively recovering. But one way you can recover every single day, and you already do it, is by sleeping. And sleeping is an essential component of your health and well-being as swimmers. I personally have prioritized sleep over many things in my life. When people ask me what are the top three things I love in life, it's sleep, food, and travel. Those are my top three things. I always say sleep first, because it honestly significantly impacts your physical development, your cognitive performance in school, and just your overall quality of life. Like another thing, when, you know, I meet people for the first time, and I in real life I'm 6'4", people ask me, how are you so tall? I always just say I sleep a lot. You know, I attribute it a lot to that, whether it's that or genetics, still to be determined. In a little bit, I'll be talking about chronobiology, right? And what that is the study of biological rhythms. And these rhythms, amongst other factors, are what your sleep patterns revolve around. And as I discussed before with the endocrine system and stress, we'll be discussing how that stress also, your endocrine system now also helps regulate your sleep and recovery, you know, when it comes to your, that cortisol that I was talking about earlier. So before we get into that, because I know we're about like halfway, we're 30 minutes in, I wanted to take just like a minute. And, you know, it's a Friday afternoon. I want you to use this scale. Now, if you have a phone, if you have your computer, you should have a calculator app. You can pull it up. It'll take hopefully no less than, 20 seconds. Probably by now, after I'm done this sentence, you'll have it up. And what we're going to do is go through each one of these and basically just say, you know, if I was doing one of these right now, before this call, because right now would be affected by something that we'll talk about in a couple slides. What are my chances of dozing from 0 to 3? 0 being I would never doze, 1 I would slightly chance of dozing, 2 moderate chance of dozing, and 3 high chance of dozing. So sitting and reading, watching television, sitting inactive in a public place, as a passenger in a car for an hour without a break, lying down in the afternoon when, circumstances permit, sitting and talking to someone, sitting quietly after lunch, and in a car while stopped for a few minutes in traffic. So I'll give you about 20 seconds. I have a timer here, so I'll see that. I'll give you about 20 seconds to finish doing that. And if you want, put it in the chat box. Put your score in. And I'll reveal in 15 seconds what your score could mean for you. Okay, 10 more seconds. Right, so results. So like I said, you have to add them all up. So if you are between 1 and 6, congratulations, you are getting plenty of sleep at the moment. If you're between 7 and 8, your score is average. And if you're 9 plus, you're very sleepy, and you should, consult your doctor as to, possible ways that you can improve sleep, or email me. See if there's, we can talk about strategies for helping you improve your sleep with school and swimming and whatnot. So the reason I had you complete that scale is because the sun is starting to go down, and human sleep-wake cycle follows what's called a circadian rhythm. Think of this as a rhythm, right? And so what it means is when it's bright outside, our body is more alert. And it's actually funny that schools have recess around 10:30 in the morning. It's actually a great strategy to get the kids out of their seats. Yes, get them outside running around, but also to get them more exposed to sunlight, which will wake them up even more and have them more focused for class, right? As the sun goes down every day, the body starts producing higher amounts of this hormone called melatonin. And what melatonin does is it makes you sleepy. It induces your daily sleepiness, and as 6 p.m. hits, might even be about 6 p.m. The sun will be going down, and your body will start producing more and more melatonin and less cortisol and adrenaline, like I was saying before, which will keep you more awake, right? And as I was trying to allude to before when we were doing the scale, devices such as smartphones, tablets, like computers, as we're on right now, and television give off, I'm sure some of you might know this term, blue light. And this blue light is very similar to sunlight. And not only does this light make us more alert, but it tricks our bodies into thinking that it's still daytime and that we're still ready to be up and doing things, right? And this can affect our sleep quality. And things like blue light glasses, like these that I have, because I spend so much time in front of my computer late at night, can be things that you can use to reduce that blue light if you need to work on an assignment for school and it requires a computer. But the best overall strategy is to improve your sleep is to just turn them off at least an hour before bed. All right, we want to have that off so that, again, more melatonin, less cortisol and adrenaline before. So long as we're doing that, we'll be great. So speaking of sleep quality, there are three major components that make us sleep. That make up sleep. The first is total sleep time. And this is sometimes confusing. A lot of people think it's, okay, I got in bed at 8. I got in bed at 10 o'clock. I woke up to my alarm at 8 o'clock, 10 hours of sleep. What it actually is it's just the time that you're sleeping, with irregardless of, one, the time it takes for you to fall asleep, but two, if you're not sleeping well, we're not including the times that you wake up in the middle of the night and then it takes you to fall back asleep, right? The second is sleep efficiency, which actually a lot of people refer to as sleep quality, as it's the amount of time that you're able to, as I was just saying, stay asleep throughout the night. So if you're one of those people like me, where I die when I sleep, so as soon as my head hits the pillow, I'm out cold, and you sleep from 10, like I said, from 10 to 8, then that's 100% sleep quality, and et cetera, right? And the last is sleep latency. And it refers to the time it takes you to get from stage 1 of sleep, with like the lights out and your eyes are starting to close, to stage 2, when you are actually asleep. And, as you're falling asleep, you go through these different stages, right? So they're split up into 2 major stages. The first is non-REM sleep, and that has 3, major stages. And the second is REM sleep. And what REM stands for is random eye movement. So it's, if you've ever been sitting next to someone while they're napping on the pool deck at a meet, and you see that their eyes are twitching, that's because their eyes are moving and you're dreaming. It's what you look like, right? So the 4 major stages. So stage 1 is the transition period between, when you're awake, so when you close your eyes, as I was saying before, when you close your eyes and when you initially fall asleep, and this usually takes between 5 and 10 minutes. If you're really good, it could take as little as 2 minutes. The next is stage 2, which is, light sleep. And, your body temperature starts to drop. You're starting to, maintain homeostasis. So like everything is normal at night. Your brain starts to, produce what's like they're called sleep spindles. So essentially your brain starts to shut down and just like relax for the day. And this usually lasts around 20 minutes, right? The third stage, which is really good for your muscle recovery, is the deep sleep stage, right? And this usually lasts about 30 minutes. So if you're adding them all up, it takes you about an hour to reach deep sleep. Again, there's a lot of variance. It's not like in an hour exactly you'll reach deep sleep. But that's around the time when you'll hit it. And then the last one is REM sleep. And this is when, your brain becomes more active, you start dreaming, and, your eyes start to do the rapid eye movement that I was referring to before. Right. So the last thing I wanted to touch upon before I start giving, takeaway home tips are swim meets, as they can be a nightmare when it comes to getting sleep and recovering properly. There are so many things that get in the way, and I really wanted to dedicate a slide to this and speak to it specifically. So get into the mind of a swim meet. So we've all been there, right? We get to the meet. We immediately go to our coach who has the meet schedule on 6 or 7 pieces of paper. And you go through it to find what events you're swimming, what heat, you write it on your arm. Some meets, like the example I have here, it could be all weekend. It could be the prelims start on a Thursday, and this one, the prelims started on a Friday, and then on Saturday there's finals. So, you're going to have to wake up if it's a 4-day meet, you could have, you could be event 1 on Thursday morning, and your sleep schedule is affected because, you have to wake up early, you have to get there, you have to warm up, meet with your coach, get to your lane, do your race, et cetera, right? And throughout the meet, things can get affected. So right now I'm going to try and, walk you through some of these like recovery strategies specifically for meets. So, it really, the big difference maker, as I was trying to allude to before, is time. How much time you have between events is huge. I did testing last year with the national group, and I remember working with Johnny Pike, and we had the 100-meter sprint, and then he had I think it was 100-meter butterfly. One event, like there's one event in between. And we were running around because at that time with that meet, we didn't have a pool that he could go into to actively recover between events. So what I had to do is I had to go to my friends with the national team, and Ben Titley, their head coach, is a good friend of mine. Funny story, he's actually my neighbor. I said, hey, Ben, do you mind if I use this lane and with Johnny here? And he's like, oh yeah, go for it. So Johnny was able to get out of his event, do the lactate testing with me, but then actively recover. And that's really important because actively recovering is the best. Swimming those laps and relaxing and doing what I was saying before, where you're trying to increase the blood flow at a low heart rate to flush your legs and flush those hydrogen ions and lactic acid, is really important, so that it's a short-term strategy to help your body recover in between events when you can do it, right? But another great strategy, if you have the time, if you have an area to do it on deck, is naps. Naps sometimes get a bad rap, but they're actually a really great way to recover between events. Again, it takes longer. It's not always easy. I'm personally not one who can fall asleep anywhere. But if you're able to fall asleep anywhere and you can get quality sleep, like I was saying before, without it interrupting, again, like I said, meals, hydration, and most importantly, what your coach needs you to do. So whether it be showing up for warm-ups or preparing in the warm-up pool, I would 100% recommend naps on, if you're event 1, but then you're event 47, right? So you have the morning event at like 8 o'clock in the morning, but you don't have to be back until 2 or something, right? Naps, fantastic. So with talking about naps, I wanted to give you some more take-home sleep strategies. And when the first and big one I wanted to give was when preparing to go to bed, wearing warm, cozy socks, or if you're someone who gets cold feet or hands in your house, wearing, warm, cozy winter socks around your house, before you go to sleep, or even while you're in bed, is a great way to prepare for bed. And I'm going to go into the science of it. So Crouchy and colleagues in 1999 discovered that, an effective way to reduce the time it takes to fall asleep, so remember that sleep latency term I was talking about before, is to, heat up what's called your distal proximal skin temperature, which is a fancy way of saying the heat of your extremities. So your hands, your feet, your hair are all extremities that give off heat. Our bodies radiate it, right? And a good way to keep it in and to, like I used the term earlier, homeostasis, try and keep our bodies as neutral as possible, is to wear those cozy socks. So as seen here, the green are the people who wore the socks and the red are those who don't, right? So this is, they fall asleep, they're falling asleep. Whoops, sorry. They're falling asleep and, their body is getting ready to fall asleep better. Sorry, I was getting tongue twisted there. Their body is preparing for sleep a lot better. That's what the left one shows, right? This one is showing that sleep onset, so how long it takes once you get in bed to fall asleep, is significantly shorter. Look at the difference. They had like 10 minutes here for the people with socks and upwards of 20 to 25 minutes for those without. So food for thought, socks for thought. Try it. See if it helps. I wouldn't try it once. I would try it a few days in a row, so you can actually get a proper testing of it, but it might help you. Another great thing you can do is setting up a sleep schedule. And I started doing this in university. And with technology these days, it's so much easier to do it. When I did it, I used a calendar and I looked at, how much work I had, and I tried to, over the course of a semester, look at when I had class and when I had water polo practice and when I needed to do work, right? Because as I'll talk to later, consistency is key. So being able to set up a consistent time when I'm going to bed and a consistent time when I'm going to sleep is great. And all of that can be done with, a lot of this, with the iPhone and I'm pretty sure with a lot of the new Android phones as well. But if you don't have that, you can use my method. Look at your school schedule, look at your swim schedule, and map out. This would be a good time management task for you as well. Look at, when can you fall asleep and when do you need to be awake, and try to be as consistent as possible, right? And like I said, in this app, for all the iPhone users out there, I use it. It's fantastic. You can set what days you want it to be, but you should really set it to every day, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. And you can set up, how it wakes you up and different things. But another great thing about it is, and another strategy you should utilize is, when I was talking about that blue light earlier, is put it on do not disturb mode, start utilizing your phone less and less before you go to sleep. So with that, I wanted to touch upon, my 5 final big tips when it comes to sleep and just like things you can improve moving forward. Something I didn't talk about this talk was how much. I think a lot of you know how much. It's 8 to 10 hours. We should be getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night, but that's not what I wanted you to focus on. I wanted to give you all the tools to be able to enact your sleep strategies, but also understand why you're doing it. Sometimes understanding it can be more important and drive your, motivation to want to set things like this up for yourself, right? The next, like I said, try to limit that exposure to your computer, especially your phone, because a lot of times we're like this and it's close to our face because we're trying to look at something. If you can, invest in some blue light glasses. I recently got these. Go to bed at the same time every night. So like I was trying to say before, consistency is key. If you can go to bed at the same time and your alarm is set for the same time, it will really help you get your rhythm, that rhythm we were looking at before, in check and improve your recovery, right? Next is when you actually go to bed, this is probably one of my biggest flaws. When you're actually in bed, go to sleep. Don't be on your phone. If you're lucky enough to have a TV in your room, don't watch TV. Don't look at stuff on your laptop. Your bed is for sleeping, and it's a good way of ensuring that you get the best sleep possible. So when you go to bed, actually sleep. And last but certainly not least, try to wake up at the same time every morning. And that means do not hit the snooze button. You're actually, you're hurting yourself and you're hurting your body when you hit the snooze button, because it throws everything out of check. When you wake up in the morning and that light hits you, you get spikes of hormones that say, okay, we need to get up and get going. If you go back to sleep, it causes a lot of mayhem. Also, even if it's the weekends, I know how much you want to sleep in. Try to wake up when your body tells you to wake up. Turning back over and rolling back to sleep, not very helpful when it comes to keeping that rhythm. All right. If any of you have any questions, I would love to hear them.
All right. Can you guys see me? Because I can't see myself. I don't know why.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, Adam, that was great, man. Thank you so much. My first, I will wait for questions. If you want, guys, use the chat feature now. I have questions too, if you don't have them, and some questions I'm sure some of you guys will be interested in. First question I have is, can we have some of this information and share it, like your slides?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'll send them out. And the scale that
that scale was
that scale is huge. That scale is huge.
That's
if you're mid-season, if there's any coaches listening too, and you're you want to check in with your athletes and see how they're sleeping and recovering, using that scale and adding a few other questions to it too, as to like, how much sleep are you guys getting?
Mm-hmm.
Try and keep that open line of communication going as much as possible.
Absolutely. And so yeah, because some of the information, I'm sure, like, there's people who understood, people didn't, but if you get a chance to look at it, it's actually pretty simple to understand, and coaches can help you understand. But there was a lot there, and that was excellent. Let me see here. We got one. I'll try to like that. Can you see that, Adam?
Yep. I rarely sleep unless it's bed. Why does insomnia happen from a physiological perspective? Right. So insomnia, great question. So from a physiological perspective, insomnia is usually driven by that endocrine system that I was referring to before. And your imbalance of cortisol and melatonin can really keep you up at night. So a lot of the times when, people have insomnia, they go to their doctor prescribes pills that 9 times out of 10 contain some percentage of melatonin that, or something similar that, helps your body fall asleep a little bit more. So the people with insomnia could have insomnia because of, external stresses in their life. They could have something, if they don't have something like that going on, they could have a bigger issue with something in their endocrine system where their pineal gland, which is in your brain, isn't producing enough melatonin. So then they have to supplement it with more pharmaceuticals. There's a lot of different reasons.
Mm-hmm. Adam, there's a couple good ones here. One from Will. Sometimes he wakes up, he slept 9 to 10 hours, but he still feels sleepy. What would you say to that? Does he need more sleep, or is he not getting good enough sleep?
Right. So I feel that, Will, as a graduate student, I completely understand. And as a former water polo athlete, I completely understand that. So that could be caused by a lot of different things. It's great that you're getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep, but again, like I said, consistency is key. It could be that you're getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep, where one night you're going to bed at 10 and the next night you're going to bed at 12, or you could be waking up on the weekends, really late, but for school you have to wake up at 8, and you're throwing off that rhythm, right? And what that does is, you can shift that rhythm. It's about a 24-hour period, and you yourself can shift it. Think about it. When you're when people travel from East Coast to West Coast, right? Jet lag, right? People are always tired. They wake up and it's a different time zone, but it's still a 24-hour period. It's just shifted 3 hours. So if you think about it as like, if you're in school and you're going to sleep at 11 o'clock and you're waking up at 7 for school, but then on the weekends you're going to sleep at 1 in the morning and you're waking up at 11 o'clock in the morning, you're moving your 24-hour circadian rhythm. So it's throwing off your hormones are trying to say, hey, time to wake up, but you're not properly,
I'll say that's probably the best advice. Well, because that was one of my questions going to be like, can you cut? I've had people asking me, hey, Eddie, I didn't sleep well during the week, but I caught up on sleep in the weekend. Yeah, you probably didn't do that, unfortunately. But there are lots of questions here. Let me filter them down a little bit, Adam. For the foods, guys, we're gonna have a nutritionist coming, so we'll leave that to him. Okay, so remember that question. And naps. How much is it, like, short or long? I that one I'm interested in. Do you think, like, I know that there is a magical time, right, for naps too?
So there's a lot of debate on this. Actually did quite a bit of research on this. There's a debate whether or not, you should reach deep sleep, whether or not you should reach REM sleep. My best practice, if you're again, this goes back to what I was saying before about the issue with swim meets and naps in general, is it really just depends on your schedule, right? If you have the time, try and take that long nap, right? But it's then like, do you have time from the nap to warm-ups to properly, shift, from that, you're falling asleep and the melatonin levels go up to you're trying to prepare for, your events and practice and whatnot. Is that going to affect it? It's, try and give yourself about a 1 hour buffer. So if you have the time, take a longer nap. I'm not going to talk down.
What would you say is a longer nap, Adam? Just like roughly.
Right. So the deep sleep, as I was saying before, can take upwards of an hour 15. So, I mean, you could preferably, if you can get naps in between, 30 minutes minimum to an hour and a half. that's great. But a lot of times people can't because of other things that are going
Of
on.
course. Yeah.
You've been to swim meets. They're not,
Yeah. They're not
they're
great.
not,
Yeah.
they're
But there
not
are
calm events.
there are people who can sleep for sure.
Yeah.
Um, uh, is there such a thing as too much sleep? I don't.
Is there such a thing as too much sleep?
Mm,
I guess it depends. Again, I'm going back to what is turning into a theme: consistency. So if you are trying to sleep on the weekends more to catch up on sleep, that's great. But remember my trick or rule of thumb: when you go to sleep, when your body wakes you up, that's when it's time to wake up. You don't have to set the alarm on the weekend if you don't want to, but typically when I wake up on the weekend, when I wake up is when I wake up, and I roll out of bed and take a shower and go on with my day. So
mhm.
I wouldn't just don't fight your body. I don't, other than like I was saying before, where it can affect that rhythm that I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can't confidently say that it will
Okay.
not happen.
I want to ask this question. Kind of Lucas here asked it, but I want to rephrase it a little bit
Mhm.
because I think this one is a good one to answer. Um, we have late schedules, Adam. You were with us, and some kids will go like after at 8:45 p.m. They'll get home at 9:30 p.m. They'll just start homework. Um, and they gotta look at their computer.
Yep.
So it's like some of them during the week may not even get 8 hours.
Yeah, it's hard.
What do you is there any tips around that? Like, you know, sometimes I ask my students if it's easier to wake up earlier, like go to bed right when you get home and
Mhm.
wake up early and do your homework in the morning. I don't know if you have any comments around that.
Um, so the way that we combated it in high school was as a team at my high school. As soon as school was done, we met in the library and we worked as hard as we possibly could from when we finished school until practice. And our
Mhm.
practice started at 3:45, and we were done school at 2:45. So we tried to accomplish, what I'm trying to get at is try to accomplish as much schoolwork as you possibly can. You know, Again, this is what I was trying to talk to about at the beginning. You are student athletes.
Mhm.
It's difficult. University, especially when you get to university, it doesn't, you don't compare it to what other people are also in the degree, because they don't have the same stress in life as you do, because your schedule is just so much tighter. So like even throughout school, I would have lunch, and I would eat lunch for about 15 minutes, but my lunch period was 45 minutes.
Mhm.
I would then go and spend 30 minutes in the library if I
Yeah.
knew I was going to have a test, or not every day, but when it's necessary, so that you can get the sleep
The
that you
sleep,
need
the
and
yeah.
still be successful in school.
So what
But
I'm hearing is basically try to protect your sleeping routine as much as you can by finding those opportunities to do work during the day, because
100%,
as
100%.
we see in here, guys, just protecting that sleeping routine is really, really important for your recovery.
Hmm.
um so whatever your routine is, that's your routine, and just try to protect it as much as you can. um yeah, that's what I would say. That's what I'm hearing here, right?
Yeah, I mean, another tip is, the teachers are there to help you. So if you
Mhm.
go up to them and you say, "Hey, swim season is coming up, and I have practices on these days. Could you,
Yeah.
tell me when, we're going to have more work than other, so that the weekend before, when you have that time off, you can then work on some of that material so that it doesn't
That
build up as much."
you know what? That's a good point. This is an advice I tell my swimmers all the time. Um, Advocate for yourself, right? Let them know how much you commit to swimming. Most teachers are going to want to help you out, and furthermore, I mean, I'm sure the coaches who are here will agree with me. We can help you. Like, I've written letters for athletes before, for teachers who say this person commits to this. It's kind of like just reinforcing your message, right? So don't be afraid to do. I used to do that when I was in high school. Don't be afraid to talk to your teachers. Set up a meeting. Tell them that this is important to you, and most teachers will want to help you out, I think. Okay, so power naps. Sorry, just I know that we touched a lot on this topic already, but power naps, 5-minute power naps. That physiological speaking, I'm not sure if he does a lot, eh?
So power naps are great if you're an efficient sleeper, like I was saying before, right?
Good point. Yeah.
But if you're not able to, at least make it into that light sleep, if I can pull it up, right? If you're not able to make it into this second stage of actual light sleep, then I think you're wasting time.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Listen, I think a couple of things that I want to say, and I do have one more question, but guys, I think that there's a lot of value just understanding what kind of a sleeper you are. So if you can spend some energy just trying to understand what kind of a sleeper you are, that will be absolutely great. And this question I want to ask, because I know that it's out there, and it's just melatonin supplements. I know that people do like to, I don't know what your thoughts are around that, because I know I've heard both sides of the aisle there.
Yeah. So as a physiologist, for everyone out there, anyone who is not your doctor, do not take their advice when it comes to supplementing anything. I mean, besides maybe basic things like protein and which, again, an expert like Eric will come in and give you guidance as to these are ones to stay away from, but he will tell you that it's, stick with natural foods. When it comes to supplementing melatonin or trying to improve your sleep outside of the strategies that I've given, consult your doctor. Go to every year you get a checkup, go and say, hey, I'm swimming a lot. A lot of times throughout the year, I have a note on my phone of things that, for my next doctor's visit, I'm going to talk to my doctor about X. If you're in swim season and you're not falling asleep and you've tried all the strategies and you've talked to your coach or you've consulted me and it's still not working and you think, melatonin is the way I'm going to go to your doctor and they will give you, the best possible advice as to how much you should take, the timing, et cetera, et cetera. But I am not, as a physiologist, even though I understand how it works, we are not the experts. The doctors are. They go to school for, 7+ years post undergrad to be able to give you this advice. So
there's a couple questions here. I actually will. So one is just, is there a cutoff eating before sleeping? Do you want to leave that for Eric, or you want to?
Is there a cutoff time for eating? What is the reason behind it? Are you worried about it affecting your sleep, or are you worried about, the myth that if you eat right before you go to bed, you're going to get, you're going to put on fat and other, it's not going to be used properly. I'd really like to understand what and whoever it is, you can just pop on and ask with, your voice to explain.
Kira,
if it's easier.
Want to follow up on that question? And it is 6:07, but we can finish it up with this question.
It's Friday night.
Yeah, I know. Hey, we can be here a little longer.
No worries.
While Kira is following up, Rowan just asked about those like late nights, and then so we end practice at like 8:30 on Tuesday, and then we have to swim in the morning at 5. And to that, I would just say to Rowan, just go to bed as soon as you can.
Yeah,
Just trying
and
to get.
again, that's what I was referring to before is like, when you progressively get to those higher levels,
Mhm.
that's when the extra stress, starts to come in, and you
Yeah.
will have scenarios, hopefully only once or twice a week, where that's an issue.
Mhm.
And when that's the case, you really need to be on top of your work before it.
So Kira came back and said will interfere with the quality of sleep, the food eating.
Oh, will eating interfere with the quality of sleep?
Mhm.
Um, I'm not sure. I'm going to be honest. I think that question is more better suited for Eric when he
Eric.
comes in.
Yeah.
He will definitely be able to answer that
Mhm.
question for you.
Mhm.
I don't want to, again, I will never be someone to give you advice where I can't full on, back
Ruth,
it
I
myself.
I would say your question is also for Eric. Just eating like a snacking if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're hungry. Um, and Zach, I will answer your question. He's talking about tight bathing suits, like when you. Let me see.
He's raising his hand. I don't know if he wants to ask it over
Zach,
audio.
do you want to ask it over? You can.
Yeah, sure. I was just gonna say, like, sometimes at swim competitions after warm up, even though I try to do a really light warm up, I get this tightness in my thighs,
Mm.
and I don't think it's because of my swimsuit. Like, I don't even have a racing suit. I just wear a regular one, and I don't feel it at practice. But before my swim races, my thighs are always really, really tight, and especially like in breaststroke, it doesn't feel like loose and good. Like before my races, I feel all sloppy. So like, is there anything I can do? Like I've tried using rollers and stuff, but it always just feels tight, I feel.
And it's only in your race suits, or is it also
No,
like,
I don't have a race suit. Like I normally use the same one for practice and competitions. I just feel like after I drive to the competition pool and after like the warm up sitting on the bleachers, like before my race, I get all tight.
They get heavy. Yeah.
they
Yeah.
get heavy? Okay. And okay. Um, hmm. That's good. Okay, where's the tightness So when you say you're tight in your thighs, does it go up to, your abdomen as well, or is it just like your legs? Is it the back of your legs, the front of your legs, the
So
sides?
it's more the front and just my thighs, and
Mhm.
it's not like a heavy as in when I walk, it's like pulling me down. It's more like when I stand, this feeling like an uncomfortable like tightness.
Hmm.
Zach, I would say maybe you actually just maybe working too hard during your warm up.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was gonna allude to
yeah,
that.
like you may be and knowing you, I know you well. You're excited during your swimming meet, and you come to the pool and you work too hard during your warm up, and like that excitement, that adrenaline may make you work a little too hard, um and then you actually, instead of loosening up, you're actually tightening up. So that's something that we can work with your coaches. We'll we can put that to work with your coaches, Zach. Okay, mention
Okay.
that to your coach. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, guys. I'm gonna stop it here because it's already 6:11. Like Adam offered, if you have questions more specific to you, um, you are more than welcome to email him at adam.pinos@gmail.com. Okay. If and I think I'm gonna stop the meeting right there. Okay. Thanks everyone for coming. And next week is Eric. Adam, if you want to join Eric too, you're more than welcome to join.
Maybe I'll try
Um,
and grill him
yeah,
a little bit.
and next week is on Thursday.
Okay.
It's not on Friday, guys. Just so you know, just to give you a heads up, because that's the one talk that we. I'm sorry. No. Next week is on Friday. I'm sorry. It's the last one's on Thursday. I'm sorry. Let me just correct myself. Next week is on Friday also at this time, 5 to 6. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thanks everybody. Have a good night. We will see you again next week.
See you, Eddie. Thanks.
All right, Adam. Thank you so much, buddy.